Hello, everyone in the Book Creator community. I am Katie, the Education Content Manager here at Book Creator, and I have John, our Senior Teacher Success Manager here. And we are excited to celebrate a few districts today that have some real success with using portfolios in their assessment of students. And so first of all, just to kind of remind you of our portfolio feature, I'll be sharing a link to all these resources in the chat. We're not going to be demoing the features today, but here are all the things, the resources you might need to be able to dive into portfolios. John, what do you see as like the big wins with the portfolio feature?
Oh, thanks, Kitty, for that question. This is a very deep question for me, and I will try to be as quick as possible because nobody's here to listen to me talk. They're all here for all of our guests. So here's what I like about portfolios. As a former special ed teacher, I think too many times even myself, right, as a teacher, we've boxed kids into a specific way of answering, right? Not necessarily thinking, but we box them into a specific way of answering. So if I want to know if Katie knows anything about photosynthesis, then I say to Katie, hey, I need you to tell me about photosynthesis in a 5-paragraph essay. Boom, there's the box, right? And Katie's sitting there thinking, I don't want to write. I hate writing. Like, this sucks, And I'm like, well, that's the way I know that you know photosynthesis. And so that's it. And so I basically have put her into this box. And for a lot of students, it's hard to get out of that box, right? And they can't really show what they know. And so I love the idea of using Book Creator for portfolios because it's not just text. There are so many other options within Book Creator that really allow students to highlight their strengths and document their actual learning process. So I think that's the big thing. Katie, I don't know. What about you?
Yeah, I think I've made so many portfolios for myself and documenting my own growth, like professionally over time, that I know personally how much I've learned from that process. And so that I know that students are going to be learning from that exact same process based and the opportunity to reflect on their learning. And I think that's really powerful, is like the focus on the process of it all versus like that ultimate outcome of it. Yeah. So let's bring on our guests. Our first guest today is from Aurora Public Schools. Tracy is joining us. She is an ed tech coach. And we also have Michelle Hearn from Middletown City Schools, or a very long name of Enlarged City School District of Middletown. And our last set of guests are all from Rye schools. So we have Dr. Caitlin Sassone, Carolyn, and Kim, who are tech coaches with her. And so we're so excited to have you all today. We're just going to have
having us.
Yeah.
Thanks for having us.
Yeah. So we're going to jump right into our first question. And so I would love to talk about how you guys think, because John and I just shared what we think about portfolios, but like, what do you think is so great about using portfolios beyond a traditional grading system? So I think we are going to start with Carol.
So thank you, guys. I think you and John kind of said it beautifully, right? Portfolios capture the process of learning, not just a final product. They let kids show like different iterations, different areas of reflection, and authentic growth over time. I think it also creates a narrative of learning. So students can curate, especially with Book Creator, different artifacts that tell the story of who they are as learners. Where a traditional assignment might not necessarily capture that. And just on the teacher end, they really do provide rich data, right? That inform and kind of like allow us to personalize different pathways for students by giving them these different opportunities to express themselves.
Yeah, awesome. And I don't know if I'm allowed to jump in or not, but I'm going to do it anyway. So this is interesting that we talked about this because I was at it was FETC, I think it was a couple of years ago, and you all were there presenting, and you were talking about AI, right? And so I think what you just said kind of also ties into this whole thing about like AI, this big AI push. Kids can make anything like at the push of a button right now. They can get any information that they want. So I think pushing through portfolios makes it even more powerful because it's not necessarily that it's AI proof. But instead of focusing on whatever that shiny thing is at the end, now we're focusing on that process. And then we can really see what those kids are actually understanding.
You're completely right, John. I think that portfolios are a really nice way to see their authentic voice, their creativity skills, and even how they collaborate, right? Like how they collaborate with their peers on different projects. The portfolios allow them that space to kind of showcase that work and to see their own problem solving skills.
Love that. Tracy, I know you want to share some more about this.
Yeah, I think the only thing I would add beyond all of the amazing things you guys have said is really that metacognition that you're able to produce when doing portfolios. As a teacher, I would always tell kids, like, these are not my grades, they're your grades, but to actually get them to see that can be quite a process. And I think it's such a natural way for them to not just have a grade in front of them, but to be able to talk about that, make a video about it, actually take a picture of their work and show it in there in a way that just traditional grading doesn't always capture.
Yeah, I completely agree. Kind of going along with that, Tracy, what kind of supports or structures are you guys put in place to make this easier for teachers, easier for students in your district?
Yeah, so as an ed tech coach, really my first goal is to meet with the teacher and help them with kind of setting up their library, going over some best practices that way. And then our district has a few really great templates. So we'll usually pull some pages that they like from that and adapt them as the teacher needs. And then I like to come in if their kids haven't used Book Creator at all before, the first day, and I'll do a co-teaching with them of just, usually we just design a cover, something very low stakes that first day of kind of getting the tools. And just to have an extra pair of hands that first day of launching the tool is helpful for teachers. And then from there, it depends on the teacher. Some of them like if I still come back for a few more, others it's just kind of meeting up and seeing how it's going and offering support and guidance, kind of gradual release that way. But it does help, I think, to have that first meeting, get it all set up with them, and then just be an extra pair of hands for that initial launch. And then from there, I really leave it up to the teacher of what they like. One other thing our district has is we have implemented micro PDs. So kind of almost like a TikTok style library where teachers can go to look up topics. And so we've made a bunch of little snippets. The videos are no longer than 5 minutes each. So I always offer that to them too, of like, it's a lot of information at the start. That's a nice place to go of like, I just need to remember how to copy a page to a book. And then they have that resource as well.
I love what you said about having them do something low stakes at the beginning, setting up their portfolio. I think this is a great, beginning of the year activity. It also can help build that relationship as you're getting to know that student. They can make their about me piece, and it can be a twofer, right? It's that thing you might have already done already as a get to know me, but now it's part of their portfolio.
I also like watching kids just figure that out kind of on their own, right? So let them start by playing. And a lot of times you'd be like, as they're playing, they're really having fun with it. And then you look at the kids and you're like, well, so how would you use this in school, right? For like math or for any subject. And they're like, oh, I might use it for this, right? And then it's not me telling them that they're going to use it for a portfolio. They came up with the idea. And I'm like, I'm just following you guys, so I love that.
Michelle, what about you? What's your district done to put some supports in place to make this a seamless situation for your learners and your teachers?
Very similar to what Tracy just said. I'm also a technology instructional coach. So we kind of have the same layout. We are providing templates for the teachers and for the students to use based on each subject. We focus our professional development really on the why behind the portfolios and not just, this is what we're doing and this just do it because we said it. And we go deep into that and what this action and building a portfolio is helping them do for their future in terms of coming and sitting down in a job interview and having a portfolio and what that word actually means. So that's really nice to help everyone align in our shared vision on why we're doing this. I pushed into our first year that we did it, I pushed into pretty much every single teacher's class, 6 through 8, who were implementing this into their classes, which we have the English teachers and the social studies teachers working on these portfolios with their students. I also provided, we call them prep PDs. So during their prep period, we have a PD opportunity for them to come and sit down. Totally stealing your micro PD section idea, Tracy, because we have a plethora of videos similar to that. Love that name. If you don't mind, I'm going to steal it and put it on our Teacher Hub. So another great reason for doing things like this, for this type of collaboration. But and then also similar to what Tracy said, we do one-on-one coaching sessions to, fit the needs of that individual teacher. Some teachers are very comfortable with technology and others are at a fish out of water. So whatever they need, we provide. And yeah, it's really taken off in our school and it's been very successful.
Yeah, I'm also stealing the micro PD and TikTok style. We could do a little more of that here as well.
Hey, you just put all those videos in a book.
We use a company called Learny that helps us kind of like have a library that's locked down. So if people are interested, that is the company that we use that kind of helped us with launching that.
Awesome. Thanks.
So we're going to pivot now and talk a little bit about student voice and agency. And we know for a lot of districts that special education and multilingual learners are top of mind right now. How do you guys feel? Let's start with Tracy. How do you feel that these portfolios help those students share their strengths?
I think for me, this is the biggest plug I give when trying to get teachers on board with trying out Book Creator. It's just all of the accessibility features are so nicely packaged in there. And then as a teacher, having the ability to turn on and off portions depending on what you're looking for in the product is just so amazing. And in my district is a huge population of MLLs, multilingual learners. One of the schools I've been supporting with these portfolios, they actually have 70% of their students are NEPs this year. So newcomer students to the English. And so it's been a huge tool for their MLLs to still be able to share their ideas and practice their English in different ways that feel not so scary in front of the whole audience. And so I think it's just been such a cool and powerful tool for just those reasons.
The ladies of Rye, what about you guys?
So I would definitely piggyback a bunch of right off of what Tracy was saying. I think the great part specifically about Book Creator in terms of providing that accessibility piece is that there's so many modalities to be able to express your learning or your reflection on learning. Specifically with our multi-language learners, we did a portfolio session with our teachers, and they were able to create student artifacts for students who were kind of testing out of the services that they were getting. And they were able to use that to be able to show the progression of their language because of the audio features and things of that sort. And I think it's so nice even for students to be able to go and look at and actually listen to their growth from where they started to where they ended, because it's not just one specific published piece. It's really putting so much emphasis on that process. I think it's a great way to also tap into ownership. When you have students who have different interests beyond their abilities, it just gives them the ability to kind of take ownership and have some buy-in because they have a little bit of choice in what they're doing. One thing that we've also looked at in rolling this out with our teachers is kind of saying a portfolio could have a very specific lens or it could have a broad lens. So I might have a portfolio that represents learning that's happening throughout the entire year, or it might be a very specific learning like a portfolio. It might be a writing portfolio, for example. So whether or not it has a lens that's more so teacher driven, we always encourage teachers to give students choice and what it is they're choosing to reflect on. So it may be, okay, I need to include, for example, a narrative piece, but maybe I get to choose the one that I'm reflecting on and looking at my growth on. So I think it's a nice medium of being able to kind of capture that, but also giving students a lot of opportunity to tap into that choice.
Absolutely. And you mentioned the being able to go back and listen to your voice and hear the change, over time. So I just have to give a plug. I love that. I use that with my own daughter, who was put on a reading improvement plan back in first grade. I just had parent-teacher conferences last night, right? And I used the recording button to allow my daughter just to record her fluency, right? That was one of our pieces. And we worked so hard on all of that. Now she's in third grade. We had our conferences last night. She's off her reading improvement plan. I think she had to be at like 70 words per minute. All right. At the beginning of the year, that was the benchmark. She's at like 120 words per minute on fluency. And so just making her listen to her own voice was fascinating because she hated it at first, right? She's like, that's not what I sound like. And I was like, it is what you sound like. And she wanted to fix it so bad that it made everything so much better. So I love the audio record button is definitely one of my favorites. And there's so many possibilities for showing growth.
Can I piggyback off of that too? Because you just sparked me in thinking back to we call them English language learners. But it's a great, having that audio feature is so incredibly nice because we have all of our ELL teachers that are pushing into our gen ed classrooms. And we have the ability with that button to add in a little bit of Spanish support for our ELL students. So that ELL teacher can go onto the book creator page, can record a little instruction or a little voice memo of some sort in their native language. And it helps them just understand what they're supposed to be doing on that page a little bit more. And it's just that extra added support, which is personalized. So we really love that feature as well.
Another thing that I love that hasn't been mentioned, we're going to talk more about parents later, but just that for those multilingual learners, the feedback can be translated. And so those supporters at home, whether they are fluent in English yet or not, can get the same feedback and understand where their student is at any point in that learning cycle. So that's one thing I love personally. All right, ladies of Rye, we're going to stick with you. What are the strategies that you found effective for getting students to reflect on their portfolios? I know sometimes students do not want to reflect. They're like, I did the assignment. I'm not trying to come back to it to reflect on it. So what have you guys done?
So I think this has been like a multi-step process, right? So first, in terms of professional learning, we've modeled different ways that the teachers are reflecting and building it into their own practice. Because if we're asking students to do this, we should be well versed in it ourselves. So getting them and kind of like normalizing metacognition just from a staff learning perspective. And then we've given them different like tools to add to their toolbox that they can then go back and do with students. So for example, using like guided reflective prompts. So like, what does this piece show about your growth? Or what would you do differently? Embedding those opportunities across different disciplines. We've given them a toolbox of different like reflection through thinking routines and modeling that with students. And then also having them not make it the end reflection, right? So when they're doing this, they're constantly reflecting through the process because we don't want it to be a one and done. So we want them to think about, you know, what is the check-in throughout to really deepen the thinking. And really encouraging opportunities for peer feedback. So in like giving them different peer protocols that they could use with students to get the students to really like learn and analyze and articulate their thinking. So it's not just like a quick description. They're really having that time to have that conversation with other peers and having their peers offer feedback on their portfolios. So the only person who's seeing it is not just the student, right? And the teacher, having their peers able to see each other's work, I think has been really impactful as well.
I just heard so many ISTE standards in practice right there. As an ISTE certified educator, like I was like, ding, ding, ding. That's so great. I love it. I mentioned the translation feature, but Michelle, what other ways do you find portfolios supporting parent and family engagement?
We love this for family engagement because not only is it so easy to share with family members with the shareable link, they could share it with family members either who are local or who live all the way in, let's say, Colorado. And it not only that sharing aspect of it, but it also gives families the ability to see actual examples of their child's work. So I think back to, when I was in school, my parents, they would get just in the mail a report card with a grade, and there was really nothing else there. And I think back to what my daughter comes home with now, and every day I'm looking at her actual work. It allows me to see what she's learning, how she's progressing. And this is the same thing that our families get to see with these portfolios. So we have our students put in their performance tasks, their projects, their benchmarks. And because these are so easily shareable and they have access at any time, it's not just, that twice a quarter that they're mailing it home. They can access it every day if they want to. And then that gives the families the ability to ask open-ended questions to their students. What exactly are you working on at school? Oh, I see you did something about Mesopotamia. Tell me why the Nile River was so important to Mesopotamia, right? And it gives them that ability to engage with their students, have conversations, and bring the learning back home.
Speaking of, you mentioned accessibility. That is obviously a big thing for us here at Book Creator. John, what are your favorite accessibility features?
Oh, how many can I give? Like 1, 10, all of them?
All of yeah.
I have to tell you, my favorite one has to be speech to text. And the reason I love speech to text is because of a kid that I had. His name was Michael, and this kid hated my guts. But because I wanted him to do work, right? So like, just because I wanted him to do work and he didn't want to do it, the kid hated me. But I showed him Book Creator, and everything changed. Except he looked at me, he goes, Mr. Smith, I really want to do this. He goes, but I still can't spell. I still can't type. I still don't know where the stupid keys are. And I said, Michael, it's okay. And he's like, why? And I said, because neither do your teachers. I've seen their emails. They can't spell. They can't type. They don't know where the stupid keys are because they do this all day long. And he started laughing. And I said, but Michael, I said, like, you see that microphone right there? And he's like, yeah. And I said, that means you can write with your face. And he was like, what? Like, and that changed everything for Michael, right? So he was like, oh my gosh. And for me, like, I if the task isn't, can you hold a pencil, then I don't care how you do it, right? I just want to see what you know. And so that right there is definitely one of my favorites. I could go on for days, but I love speech to text.
Well, I'm going to pass it on to Tracy because she also had something to add to this. What about you, Tracy? What about accessibility gets you excited in Book Creator?
I think something that we see a lot of success with can be similar. Speech to text is a big one, but we also love the translation features that are built in there, both on caption. I mean, it's within all of it, the captions, the text, all the parts of it, which can be great for a multitude of reasons for kids understanding each other where sometimes they can't, even just maybe there's one word that's tripping them up in something that they can translate. And then on top of that, I coach a lot of teachers on using these for student-led conferences. And so I have kids who don't know academic language in their native language. And so then when their parents come into school, they are struggling to speak to their guardians about their work because they know the academic language only in English, but they know their other languages, and their parents are in another language. And so they're able to use those translation features actually with their parents alongside of them to help them not only help their parents understand, but they're gaining some of that language then in their native language as well.
Michelle, everyone wanted to answer this question.
So I love how you guys are all talking about the accessibility features, which are amazing. I answered the question. I'm answering the question a little bit differently in my head in talking about the actual technology being accessible to students. So I know in our district, we have one-to-one Chromebooks for 6th to 12th graders at no cost to families. We're very blessed in that. So not only do they have the Chromebook in school, but they can bring the Chromebook home and they can work on anything that they would like to work on at home and have access to all these amazing accessibility features in Book Creator. With that being said, though, we also ensure that all of our students have the time provided within class to work on their portfolio, because you don't know what every child's home life is like. And even though they have the Chromebook at home, they might be in a situation or, whatever their family dynamic is, that they can't necessarily use it. So we want to make sure that every student at some point is having access to reliable internet connection and teacher coaching and that peer assistance. I love when you were talking about, the peers being able to check each other's work, because I personally think that makes a bigger difference than a teacher sometimes. And, I'm also a soccer coach to my daughter's team, and I can tell the kids one thing, and then as soon as I pair them up with a peer and they tell them the same exact thing, it's like a light bulb goes off. So having that time and space and all of the features that allow them to have an additional support is extremely important.
I love that you shared that lens. Thank you. Kim, Carol, Caitlin, want to wrap us up on the accessibility topic?
Sure. So it's funny because the lens that I took was more so about onboarding just the idea of using technology for this process. I'm mostly at the elementary schools, and I think the biggest thing, especially when using a technology tool like Book Creator, is, well, then how do I get this accessible to my littles? Like, what does this look like for a second grader? What does this look like for a first grader? And what I love about that is the ability to really hit it with hybrid. It doesn't mean that all of the work produced has to be digital. I think the digital aspect allows you to hit that multimodal component. So if I want to do reflection, I could do that with an audio note, with the video, etc. But if I have physical work, like, no one is saying that you have to stray away from pen and paper. Those skills are so important. So I love the ability to just be able to even capture a physical piece of work and get it onto a digital component, and then have that hybrid piece where maybe our older students, 4th and 5th grade, are linking their Google Docs, for example, that they're working on, and going at it at that lens. So I just like that this might look different. Like, maybe this looks like the reflection on a published piece for a lower grade that may not be doing it regularly throughout the reflection process.
I love that lens. Thank you so much. Yeah, accessibility can mean so many different things to many different people. And while at Book Creator, we would love to think, because we like to say that we are the simplest, most inclusive tool, that it's just going to go smoothly. There are always going to be challenges when you're rolling something out. So Tracy, when you were rolling portfolios out, what challenges did you and your district face? And what are some ways that you overcame them?
I think the number one initial challenge is always time. So I think teachers are way too busy all the time. And so to get in front of them initially to show them how great of a tool it is can be that first challenge, right? You don't know what you don't know. And if you don't get the time in front of teachers to show them this, it can be hard. I think for us, we have professional release days, and in some of them we offer choice sessions, and our technology ones are always the most signed up for. And so those are really our times to, like, what are our highest leverage tools that we can get there. And Book Creator after those courses is always one that teachers, once they see it, they're ready to run away and roll with it. And then we get those coaching sessions and we can get there. And so I think the more that we can get the word out, because then that teacher works with 2 other people who are like, wait, I want to do this thing too. And just teaching the people to learn the tool.
And Tracy, what level in your district have you guys rolled these out with?
We have mostly these portfolios are at the elementary level. Our middle schools, some. We haven't had a lot of luck at high school level with this. They use more of websites, things like that for their portfolios that they do. But at the elementary level, especially I would say 3-5, we have a lot of luck with Book Creator.
Love that. Michelle, what about you? Where have you guys implemented portfolios, and what have been your challenges?
So we have implemented portfolios in grades 6 through 8. And, we're really trying to get the students ready for that high school mindset. Again, when thinking about their future and their career and having to go to a job interview, what types of things are you bringing to that job interview to, show yourself and build your brand almost. As for challenges, anytime something new is rolled out, people are uncomfortable and they, sometimes panic. And there's a different array of anxiety, I guess, among teachers, especially when it comes to technology and content providers. So to get teachers and students comfortable, I, as the instructional coach, kind of took the lead in delivering those PD sessions, pushing into all of the classes, reaching out to teachers who I know were a little bit more iffy with technology, and making sure that I met them one-on-one, just kind of co-teaching with them and modeling it. We also expanded Book Creator into our elementary schools, and we don't do portfolios in the elementary schools, but man, has that changed the way that portfolios happen and how it's rolled out in middle school. Because our first few years, we would have the students be, I don't know what this is and how do you use this? And there was like that period of time where everyone was a little bit uncomfortable and it just took time to get used to the platform. But now I go into classes in the beginning of September and we're introducing the portfolios, and I'm like, how many kids have used Book Creator before? And they're all like this, right? And they all love it. Love it, love it, love it to the max. And they're all like, yes, we get to go on Book Creator. Okay, this is so cool. And they didn't use it as a portfolio in elementary school, which I think is helpful to us because they used it more for fun and projects and, different modalities of showing what they've learned. So now that they had that experience, they now can take that experience and then create something that is showing their knowledge, their work, their progression throughout the year. So it's been a lot easier for us to dive in quicker and focus immediately on that deeper reflection and the curation of tasks that we're asking them to put together.
Love that. That's having them do something more low stakes, even if it's content related in elementary, they're familiar with the platform, the tool, and then they can dive right in.
And they're excited to use it. They love it.
Yeah.
They love it.
All right, Kim, Carol, Caitlin, tell us about where you guys have implemented portfolios and also where you guys see taking it in the future.
Yeah, so I think this has been a really big district conversation, right? Trying to remove it just to be an isolated project that's happening in a classroom to a larger K-12 scale to really think about what do we value with teaching and learning and what do we want our students and what skills do we want them to acquire when they graduate from high school, right? And so when we think about that portrait of a graduate and what type of information or knowledge base do we want kids to have, it's not just regurgitating information anymore. We want them to go through a process of learning. We want them to be able to provide feedback. We also want them to speak on the learning of what happened. So the portfolio gives them that platform to have an authentic audience, to really talk and show what they know to everyone that could listen, because we've now broadened their scale from just what's on a piece of paper of an assessment to let me have a presentation, let me talk to an outside community member, let me talk to parents, let me talk to other classes. So we're really starting to think about on a teacher scale and a student scale, K-12, what could this look like? Right now, we've been implementing it in pockets in certain areas, right? Things have to grow. So we do, for an example, in our 5th grade, we do a capstone project in 5th grade where portfolios have been embedded and students have that opportunity to showcase what they've been studying in their 5th grade lens. From the teacher side, this is a new requirement for us, for new teachers coming on board, to build a portfolio of their learning and their experiences within our district the first couple of years that they're here. And again, so we're really starting to thinking about, we're moving away from regurgitating of information to really designing that whole learner and being able to talk through interests and passions and information that they've acquired throughout their time here in Rye from K-12. So that's something that we're really pushing for. It's going to take some time to develop that. It doesn't happen overnight, but we're really starting to rethink what's important to us and a learner and a teacher, and what benefits students when they leave our doors. What skills do they need at the end of senior year to go on to their next pathways? And so portfolios for us really help to measure that learning and to start those conversations and to build that confident learner and teacher that we're, looking to have here.
So I'm so glad to hear you say that about the teacher piece too, because I was holding on to that one in the back of my head. I was waiting for the right moment, and there it is. So I'm going to drop the bomb. So Katie and I actually worked with the district that my kids go to create a teacher kind of portfolios template that was going to be used for state teacher evaluation. Because in Ohio, they allow now the schools to choose how they submit things to state teachers instead of just doing whatever it was that they used in the past that everybody hated. So now they can use something else. And so Katie and I worked on a template. So if you're interested, I'll be happy to email you those templates so that you can use them. You don't have to start everything from scratch, because Katie did a great job putting those templates together. But I've already heard from a couple of my districts who kind of are like, yeah, let's try that, especially with new teachers. Let's get them in right from the ground running, and they love it. So yeah, really excited.
Yeah, we've seen teachers do their ISTE portfolios with Book Creator. We just made actually a new template for annual reports for teacher librarians because there's a new Future Ready framework and it aligns with that. So yeah, I've made portfolios myself with Book Creator. I think it's a great place. People are comfortable reading a book, and it's really nice to put your story as a professional into a book. And I think that connects really nicely with our last question. Michelle, you already kind of touched on using it with 6 to 8 and getting them career and future focused. What other possibilities do you see?
I mean, yeah, piggybacking off what I already said, the portfolio in general is there to show the students' strongest work. It's not just a collection of everything. It's really allowing them to focus and hone in on the demonstration of competence that they've had throughout their entire time in our case in middle school. But when thinking about, portfolios in general and jobs or if going to a college application or even going to BOCES, you're really building those soft skills that people need in a workplace, that ability of self-assessment and going back and seeing what has my progression been throughout the last couple months, throughout the last quarter, throughout the last year. That growth mindset and, having that in the back of their head of like, look how far I've come and just imagine where I could go. Digital communication as well. We live in a digital world right now. And as much as I know probably most of us looking at everyone in this room and guessing their ages, we probably all showed up with a physical portfolio, right? But nowadays, a lot of job interviews are done virtually. So it's kind of hard to show someone a actual physical portfolio and you're on a Zoom call. So by having that link, I think that link and just being able to share things so easily and it looks nice and neat and professional. And then the last thing I'll say is personal branding, because that's what everybody is doing in today's day and age. I mean, if you think about what social media is, all people are doing are creating a personal brand, right? So we're trying to teach that to our students, that not only your digital footprint that you're putting online and social media is part of your personal branding, but also everything that you're doing in school and everything that you're creating and then taking on to the future, whatever that future might be, that's all part of your personal brand.
I love that. I 100%
Yeah,
agree.
that was
I
awesome, except for when you called us old. Other than that, I agree with everything there, Michelle. Even though you're right, we are old. I'm old. I don't know about everybody else.
I'm feeling older. I just had a birthday. I'm feeling older now. But you know what? Older isn't better. You're wiser. And my son asks everyone, how young are you? Instead of how old are you? And
I
I'm
like
like,
it. I like it.
I love that. How young are you? Because we're all young at heart.
I feel like a lot of us are paper artifacts within the sleeves age for sure.
Yes.
Well, we're so glad that all of you guys came and shared your success as a district, because it's really, I mean, it's making good impact for students. You're giving them these lifelong skills of reflection, personal branding, thinking metacognition about their learning. This is so valuable. And we're just really glad that you gave us your time to share your successes today. John, any last words on portfolios?
No, that was it. I thought that was really good. What you
All right.
wrapped it up. So
If you didn't get it yet, get the I can't point the right way. I don't know where I'm pointing, but get the certificate. The certificate. Yep. If you wanted an attendance certificate. Thank you guys again for joining us, Tracy, Michelle, Kim, Caitlin, Carol. I appreciate you. And I hope everyone in our community has a good day. Bye.
Bye, everybody.
all right.